A diplomatic scramble has been set off as it emerges that Edward Snowden, the leaker of NSA secrets, has left Hong Kong, is in an airport in Russia, and is now heading to Ecuador, according to his supporters. Welcome to Asia Today. I'm Mariko Sanchanta. With me is Jake Lee, Asia Markets Editor for the Wall Street Journal in Hong Kong. Jake, it's been an extraordinary 24 hours. Let's start at the beginning. So Edward Snowden has left Hong Kong. Now, there's been a lot of criticism that the Hong Kong government shouldn't have let him go. What does this mean? And tell us about the statement that the Hong Kong government made yesterday.
Sure. So here's what we know, a lot of speculation. He's left Hong Kong. He left Hong Kong on Sunday, bound for Russia. We only knew that when Hong Kong released a statement midway through the flight. And it really was quite a pointed statement against the US. They were working closely with US colleagues, but they're saying the US extradition request just wasn't filled in quite correctly, so Hong Kong let him go. Analysts, diplomats say they cannot have let him go without China's permission. China looks after all foreign affairs for Hong Kong. Now he's in Russia, and like you say, supporters are saying he's trying to get to Ecuador. He's airside, he's in a hotel, he's surrounded by, well, he's supposedly with Wikileaks supporters is what they're saying, and he's trying to get to Ecuador, another country where supposedly he'll be safe from the US hands.
I mean, it's quite extraordinary that Hong Kong basically says that because of a paperwork snafu, it let Edward Snowden go. And surely this is going to heighten pressure on U.S. China relations, because as you say, China must have been tacit in its approval to let him go.
I think it's pretty extraordinary. And, you know, U.S. is unhappy, to say the very least. Some very pointed statements from lawmakers over in the U.S. Very angry with what Hong Kong and China have done. Absolutely. But, you know, for China, they've played their hand quite well, is what diplomats and the analysts are saying. They're saying, look, they were caught between a hard place and a rock. If Snowden stayed in Hong Kong and the extradition request had come, would China have given him back? Well, they'd have looked weak if they had. If they'd kept him, well, bad news for the relations between US and China right after we've just had Obama and the leaders of China meeting. So a very difficult situation, and maybe China has played its hand quite well, letting him go to Russia, and now the blame will be spread around. What does Russia do? Hong Kong's let him go. Where does he go next?
So let's talk about the backstory a little bit. Why did Edward Snowden finally decide to leave Hong Kong? We understand that there's been some help from the Wikileaks team and that they've intervened at the last minute and aided him in leaving Hong Kong.
Well, he's been surrounded almost by a small handful of advisors from the moment he got here. He came here when Guardian reporters and also people associated with the Washington Post were here. Then later on, we heard that he got together with some Hong Kong lawyers for human rights, and then of course the WikiLeaks just came in right at the end, and they're saying that they accompanied him back. So clearly surrounded by different people all saying different things. What we are hearing though is it was a last-minute decision by Snowden to go to Moscow. It wasn't something that was quite planned. It happened quite rushed, quite suddenly, and accompanied by WikiLeaks. So clearly a lot of tensions between his different advisors, and so far it looks like the WikiLeaks people are winning. It was their sort of decision apparently to try and get him out as soon as possible, and it looks like that was just in time as well.
Obviously, there's a connection to Ecuador, as Julian Assange, as we all know, has been holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy in London for the past year. Now, do we think that Ecuador is going to grant him asylum? What is he going to do when he gets to the country? Do we have any idea of what the future holds for this man?
We just don't know at this stage. The supporters are saying, look, they're working closely with the Ecuadorian officials and stuff. Ecuador, like you say, has a strong history of supporting these sorts of people. Julian Assange holed up in the London embassy for over a year. So it's very likely Ecuador would sort of warmly welcome him, but we're still trying to chase down those details, and we just don't know. Like with so much with this story, there's a lot of speculation. At first we heard he was going to Iceland, then Venezuela, now we're hearing Ecuador, so we're still trying to chase this up. I mean, Snowden has kept all the details to himself very close. He personally hasn't said anything about this so far, so we're hearing it secondhand, but it looks like Ecuador will warmly welcome him with open arms.
The big difference, of course, with Julian Assange is that there actually are charges against Snowden now. Can you run us through what these charges are?
Sure. So, you know, he's been accused, I think, of 3 things, and they're saying, you know, theft of government documents, also spreading it to sort of third parties and stuff. We've seen the reports in the Guardian, the Washington Post. So you put all those together, it's pretty heavy-handed, and you can see why the US want to get him back. Of course, not everybody. There was a question at first whether the US would even press charges. But clearly they're going down that route, and they're going down very hard. And we don't know where this is going to end, how much pressure they'll put on Russia and Ecuador. But certainly for now, it looks like the US has been snubbed by Hong Kong and China, because the world's most wanted fugitive has managed to escape and be free for now.
Thanks so much. Jake Lee, Wall Street Journal markets editor. We're staying on top of this story all day today. Please go to WSJ.com for the latest updates. For Asia Today, I'm Mariko Sanchanta.